That's funny. Oh, a Rasputin video? The best mechanics from bad games. Bad games that kind of rule. Fuck it, dude. Let's do a gaming one.
The 2009 reboot of Bionic.
I love this shit. I haven't watched Raz in a minute. Bad games that kind of rule. Wait, before I watch, let me think of a game that I thought was bad but had a sick mechanic. Delete, 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 delete. I don't know. What's no, Get to Work is a great game. Paper Mario? I didn't like any of the mechanics in that shit game. What's a game where I really liked the mechanic but didn't really fuck with the whole game? I can't think of one off the top of my head. I guess I'll watch and find out.
Commando is the kind of game you think of when imagining an average game from 2009. You know, the ones you played when waiting for stuff like Arkham Asylum or Uncharted 2 to come out.
Sure.
The ones you more than likely only ever saw at a friend's house. The ones that can best be described as 360-ass games. Its story is incomprehensible, its gunplay, encounter design, and general combat feel clumsy and repetitive, and its aesthetic is so derivative of literally everything else that came out during that time that it's almost painful.
Okay.
Upon release, it received middling reviews, barely sold any copies, and quickly garnered a reputation, especially among fans of the original Bionic Commando, as being one of the worst
so it's mid to bad
ever. But also, in it you can do this.
Shit! Oh, wait.
Nathan Spencer's Bionic
wait.
Arm.
Did you guys ever play the game? Dude, how do you remember this game? It was like an open world GTA type game, but you had viral superpowers. You had like a fucking stretchy arm and you could prototype. That's the game. Prototype. That game was like overall mid, but that had some really fun shit. Like the combat and the running around, and there's like the day-to-day gameplay of the game was so fun. The story was whatever and like not that memorable, but Prototype was sick. Or Just Cause. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be in here probably.
Is one of my favorite grappling hooks, honestly, ever. The swing has such a satisfying sense of momentum to it, and that momentum feels earned. From figuring out the timing of when to release a swing to picking the right spot to aim the next shot, there is constantly something to be thinking about. Nothing here is automatic, creating a good bit of room for skill expression. The arm also has the ability to quickly pull Spencer in, a move not only useful for scaling tall buildings, but also for kicking enemies in the face. Together, this creates a movement kit with tons of versatility and potential, and all of this is further enhanced by stellar animations. Spencer always seems to know exactly when to do a flip to achieve maximum coolness, and swings flow so well into each other. Additionally, the Bionic Arm also has a whole throwing mechanic where Spencer can grab cars, broken bits of armor, even the various grunts, and toss them at oncoming enemies or into the abyss. In one fight, I swung behind this big dude with a laser cannon, grappled onto his back to kick him, grabbed the laser cannon that he dropped and slammed it into him. And moments like this are when the full potential of what Bionic Commando could have been can be seen in full force. The issue, of course, is that while the various mechanics tied to the Bionic Arm are intriguing and provide flashes of brilliance, as I stated at the top, the wider game built around them doesn't properly support their potential. For instance, while the swinging creates this grand sense of freedom, that freedom is often disrupted by hard to distinguish radiation zones that will quickly kill you for going a little too high up or the tiniest bit off the beaten path. The game really isn't about discovery or adventure. You mostly move linearly from one of these beacons to the next with the objective of killing the bad guys around them in order to unlock the path forward. Unsurprisingly, this becomes repetitive quickly, an issue that's further exacerbated by the lack of enemy variety as well as the fact that the core mechanics never really evolve.
I mean, I never played the Spider-Man games, the new ones, but I've literally watched like shorts, long YouTube shorts of people just swinging around, and it looks so fun. Just someone like being on a tall building, then diving, then jumping, then swinging through the taxis. Like, it just looks fun. It looks like it's part of my algo is getting those. I've never played the game.
Majority of fights don't take much thought, and it becomes far too easy to spam certain attacks. Not to mention, the ability to throw stuff, which is what makes combat fun at all, doesn't get introduced until the second half of the game. They seemingly wanted to have some sense of character progression, and I can see why they thought doing it this way was a good idea, but the throw should have been a starting ability that gets built upon as the game goes on, like by adding a spin move or being able to send an electric charge through the grapple to cause an explosion or
They did this in Star Wars Jedi Knight 2 or Jedi Academy. Dude, one of those, like, you play like half the game before they give you your damn lightsaber. It's annoying, bro. Piss me off. You got to run around fucking shooting stormtroopers with, like, they spent no time on the guns. It's a great game, but I think it like gets exponentially better after the
something. It's too cool to have ended with its introduction. Most aspects aside from the swinging feel underbaked, and given that the developers Grin not only released a game 2 months before Bionic Commando, but also one literally on the same day, stretching what even their sizable team could handle, it isn't a huge surprise that the game didn't feel properly built around the central mechanic. And that's a shame. Bionic Commando's grappling hook certainly shares some DNA with the Spider-Mans and Just Causes of the world, but it offers something different than either of those, and I at least haven't seen anything quite like it since. And so even though Bionic Commando leaves so much to be desired, even though throughout most of my time with it I oscillated between feeling bored and disappointed, those few moments, those perfect encapsulations of the mechanic at its best, have stuck with me. A while back, Jacob Geller released a video titled Perfect Moments in Bad Movies. In it, he examines 2 scenes, one from Spider-Man 3 and another from The Matrix Revolutions, that stand out as something special amidst the messiness of the rest of those films. And ever since watching it, I've regularly thought about video game analogs for this. Obviously, the cleanest parallel would be centered around levels or sections of games, but every time I found myself thinking about bad games that interest me, it's always had less to do with any given stretch of a title and more to do with the mechanics.
Makes
Ones
sense.
like the bionic arm. Those cool ideas that got bogged down by other aspects of a title and failed to be implemented to their fullest. The ideas undercut by rushed development and budget constraints. The ideas that could have been something. That could...
What is a game? I think of an example. This is going to sound mean to a great game, but I legitimately found Gwent to be the most fun part of The Witcher for me. The Witcher 3. Like, I spent a lot more time traveling around getting all the Gwent cards than I thought the Witcher combat sucked. I like the story and the Gwent. I actually thought Witcher combat was pretty shit. It did not interest me. So that's an example of something where it's like
still be something. I find it hard not to be drawn in by games with mechanics like these. There's a...
I mean, it just happened recently. I bought that new Star Wars game and I played it on stream. I think actually, no, they didn't pay me. They paid everyone else, but not me. I played that new Star Wars game on stream and I spent my whole 3 hours playing it doing the Pazak gambling. Star Wars Outlaws. The game itself was shit.
Joy in tragedy to them in that something so intriguing could be found in something so flawed. Bionic Commando is not exactly a rare example of a title that delivers a uniquely great mechanic while falling apart in most other ways. Frankly, there are plenty of examples from that same exact era that do the same thing. With the runaway success of Gears of War, the space became flooded with third-person military shooters all trying to capitalize on what it had established while also aiming to stand out in one way or another.
Right.
One of the more compelling mechanics to emerge from this can be seen with Fracture, a game that asks the question, what if you could create your own cover in a cover shooter? Through the use of a terraforming gun, you can raise and lower the ground based on where you shoot it, not only allowing you to control sight lines, but also to launch yourself or enemies into the air. Having so much control over the terrain is wildly satisfying, and there are moments where the full potential shines through. I'd cut
Nobody here is old enough to have played this probably, but there was a game called Tribes 2. Did a video about it with a guy who's an actual Tribes pro, my former boss. But in Tribes 2, the way that downhill speed worked when you were like shooting a gun, I'm not sure the mechanics of it, but they called it skiing. They basically called it skiing. And like, it was an unintentional side effect of the game, but you'd get on a hill and then shoot your gun and then go and you'd ski and then you get huge speed and then go up a hill and fly into the air and then like have these crazy aerial battles. And it became like the thing that stood out from tribes. Like people, it's kind of like CS surfing, but done in multiplayer combat ways. And you'd have like a squad of people all ski, shoot in the air, fly across the map, grab to capture the flag, ski out the other side. It was like sick as fuck. It like looked so cool.
A bunch of enemies off by raising the ground so that I could focus on one guy without taking crossfire, and once he was down, I'd lower a different bit to try to get the drop on those running around the obstacle I had made. It creates a remarkable sense of battlefield control, and as enemies hit pretty hard, using the mechanic well truly feels like it matters. Most encounters aren't like this though. Battles tend to be too chaotic to get a great handle on anything that's happening. There are constant explosions that shake the screen, making it a nightmare to aim and generally get your bearings. And as enemies hit so hard, if you find yourself out of position for even a second, chances are you will be dead before you can do anything to react. Also, in some sections, the focus moves away from terrain manipulation and more on the gunplay, which is not the game's strong suit, as it feels sluggish and limp. Shots against you hit like a truck, but the ones you land hardly feel satisfying at all. Furthermore, a significant chunk of Fracture's short runtime is spent in what may be the worst driving sections I've experienced in a game, as well as fighting the same boss type 4 different times. Something that isn't a problem in a game with dozens of bosses, but does feel underwhelming when it is the only one the game has. Regardless, its core idea is still incredible due to the way it can quickly shift the appearance and functionality of a battle, giving an additional layer of control and consideration to every fight. The mechanic also has a decent amount of potential for puzzles. The ones in the game end up being underwhelming, largely consisting of rolling a ball down a hill or lifting a fallen object, but the mechanic itself provides plenty of space for more complex implementations, even if those can't be found here.
These look like Zelda
Both Fracture and
puzzles.
Bionic Commando ultimately failed to balance the ideas that made them stand out with the ideas that were popular at the time, leading to messy experiences that blended in with the field they were trying to stand out from. In a similar vein as titles that fall short trying to implement something that sets them apart from everything else, there's also something fascinating about games that miss the mark when attempting to address a common critique of the genre they are in.
It was the disc
For
launcher
instance, in the
Tribes.
90s, turn-based RPGs were one of the most popular types of games out there, and
kinda
especially
making
when
a
things
comeback.
shifted into 3D, there was a growing desire to see what a more interconnected experience would feel like. One that didn't have separate perspectives or character models for combat, primary locations, and the overworld. And Nintendo's attempt to address that can be seen with Quest 64, developed by Imagineer. To preface, Quest 64 is the
So this is like a super unk status story. At this point, it's so unk, I gotta tell you. But I would bike to Blockbuster and rent this game week after week, and I never understood it and never beat it. I rented this game like a dozen times, bro, and I never ever figured out how to play it. I mean, I was young. I did not get it. Total waste of money. I still don't understand it to this day.
first game I remember not liking. During my early years of gaming, I found the mere act that I could play video games at all to be exciting enough to get me through any experience. But Quest 64 ended that. In it, very little is done to explain how things work. It is filled with a ludicrous amount of empty space that is annoying.
I would constantly get lost. I had no idea where to go next. I already, when you watch me play games now as an adult man, I don't read the instructions. So imagine as a child, well, I'm just not reading. I have no idea where to go. I was always lost. I was
easy to get turned around in. The camera is awful. The characters have nothing to them. And the sound of Brian's walk chips away at your sanity bit by bit until nothing is left. And yes, they named the protagonist of their fantasy video game Brian. FF7 has Cloud, Legend of Dragoon has Dart, and Quest 64 has Brian. Anyway, when comparing this to other titles on the N64, the golfing quality is unignorable. Shockingly though, its combat, at least once you trial and error it enough to figure out how it works, is great. As fights take place in the overworld instead of on a separate battle screen, it not only adds a level of cohesion to the world, but also makes terrain something you actually have to consider. The spells you use do not automatically hit enemies, so you have to position Brian tactically in order to land attacks. On top of that, as enemies attack, you can have Brian move around to try to avoid their spells.
No, I never knew what was going on. I never knew like if my shit was hitting or not, or how to hit. It was so easy to miss. The graphics were trash, so you couldn't. No, it's a bad game. Honestly, I don't even agree. This is a good combat.
Spells. There are 4 different branches of magic that not only do different types of damage, but also have vastly different forms of attack. For instance, the starting water spell is only effective up close, where the starting wind spell is great at a distance. Each type is beneficial in different situations, but also as you level any
And why'd you keep renting it? This may come as a shock, but back in the day, there wasn't that many games on the N64, and I wanted to beat the ones that I already put. It was like sunk cost fallacy. It was like I played Mario 64 and then I rented this game, and I wanted to beat it. It was, you'd go to the store, the options were pretty limited, and
individual branch up, you'll unlock new spells that add more versatility to each magic type. Additionally, there are no spell indicators that show the exact area of effect, which I do get is a quality of life feature some folks would probably want. However, I found that part of the fun was in the uncertainty of if something would be properly lined up or not. And it felt incredible once I had a good sense of what would and wouldn't hit. Truthfully, there are few better feelings than hitting a full line of enemies with Rolling Rock. I think if there had been a visual guide, it would have made me feel more disconnected from the magic system. It became something I really had to learn, and I always had to weigh how the environment might impact an attack. Another part that's interesting is how the action economy works. No matter how many foes Brian is facing at a time, one of them will go and then he will go. And so where in most games the conventional strategy is to take out the adds and then focus on the big guy, that isn't always the best approach here. Depending on the situation, there are times where it is better to leave the adds as they do less damage and have attacks that are easier to avoid. And by keeping them in the fight, it means not having the big guy do big damage every single round. I don't want to act like this is the deepest approach of all time, but it does lead to something that feels different from anything I've played before, and I enjoyed strategizing in a way I'm not used to. Altogether, these aspects create a singular and engaging combat system that continually evolves throughout the game's runtime. Frankly, it feels like the devs recognize
it looks like a generic parody they'd use in South Park or something instead of using the copyrighted real game. Yeah, it did. It's called Quest 64, and it's like the most generic RPG. And it really does. Everything feels like
the combat was so much better than everything else that they decided to up the random encounter rate by 10,000%, which unfortunately does mean that by the end, even the best part of the game wears thin. While this system certainly has a bit in common with battle systems in CRPGs and tactics games, it splits the gap between those and more traditional turn-based systems in an appealing way that I wish would have caught on more. A slightly more modern example of a game trying to alleviate common critiques of a genre can be seen with 2016's Shadwin. In many ways, its design choices feel like a response to Dishonored, namely with how in order to get what is considered the good ending, the game incentivizes rarely taking risks and not really killing anyone, which is not the most fun way to play as it means ignoring a ton of mechanics. On top of that, as enemy detection can be a bit finicky, it increases the chances of getting in a bad situation without it really being your fault. Now, Dishonored's approach isn't inherently bad. It creates a lot of replayability, and also most players aren't going to be all that concerned with getting the best ending, but it certainly can lead to some people feeling punished with a suboptimal ending for simply playing the game. Shadwin utilizes a handful of mechanics to try to work around these issues, the most noticeable being its various forms of time manipulation. It uses 2 ideas first popularized by other titles, one being the ability to rewind like in Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, although Shadwin does not treat it like a resource or have limitations on how far back you can go. The other is that time only moves when the titular character Shadwin moves, similar to Superhot. Although as this came out only a few months after Superhot, I'd imagine the idea was thought of independently. Both of these fit exceptionally.
Superhot's a great example. I think the Superhot time move when you move mechanic is brilliant, was super fun, makes you feel like you can do superhuman things that you'd never think. It allows you to do plays that only a pro in a game would do without needing 10,000 hours of practice. I think Super Hot's mechanic is really cool. It makes you feel super strong. So I don't know, like that, it would be cool to use that in a different way.
Well in a stealth game, as they give players the space and ability to fully understand the surroundings and experiment without being punished. Obviously, not every stealth game should adopt these mechanics, but I found them to be a welcome change to what I've grown used to. I tend to find failing in stealth games more annoying than failing in other games, as it typically results in a lot of waiting where I don't feel like my skills are being tested.
Yeah.
And so it was nice to avoid that here. In addition to these two aspects, what may be the most compelling mechanic comes in how killing enemies impacts the narrative. To progress, you not only need to get Shadwin through the level, but also the companion character, a young girl named Lily. Impressively, the vast majority of frustrations that come from escort missions are absent here, primarily because Lily cannot be spotted by guards. However, the only way for her to move forward is if she isn't in the line of sight of any of them. At least that's how it's supposed to work, but I will get to that in a bit.
Okay.
There are two main ways to get her through, either by killing the guards to clear a path or by distracting them to create openings for her to run through. Instead of having the ending be determined by which of these approaches you take though, there is an additional wrinkle to it. As it turns out, seeing a dead body is traumatizing. And so if Lily comes across any of the corpses left in Shadwin's wake, that affects the story moving forward. The thing is though, that doesn't mean you can't kill guards. It just means that you have to make sure Lily doesn't see it, creating a dynamic where you're not only hiding bodies to make sure that guards aren't alerted, but also in order to protect Lily from the horrors of assassinhood. Unlike in Dishonored, you don't have to ignore a ton of mechanics to get the preferred ending. You simply have to use them discreetly. Unfortunately, although conceptually brilliant, the execution leaves
like a
a
huge
fair
annoyance,
bit to be
honestly,
desired. While a game where time regularly stops obviously won't yield the smoothest gameplay, it is clunky in unrelated ways. Stuff like this happens more than it should, leading to an unpolished feel. Maybe most notably, the enemy AI as well as Lily's AI is bad in a way that makes everything feel unreliable. By and large, this makes most things far easier than they should be, but it also brings about some unsatisfying difficulty spikes due to guards or Lily behaving in ways that don't really make sense. What's more is that the various encounters aren't properly balanced around the time mechanics at your disposal. I thought being given this much control would lead to super complex encounters, but honestly, the time mechanics mostly act as a way to mitigate the frustration that comes from the enemy AI being as janky as it is. Even with those frustrations though, I rarely even felt tempted to take.
I do think the Prince of Persia Rewind Time thing, you haven't played it, is like, it's pretty cool. It's like super frustration limiting and allows you to be creative. It's kind of fun.
Out of guard, as more often than not, I could get through easily enough by only pulling boxes, meaning I never had to engage with the mechanic I found to be the most compelling. Also, the narrative elements of this game aren't integrated in all that impactful of a way. They largely boil down to some dialogue in loading screens and a cutscene at the end, making it so the payoff hardly feels worth it. Alongside all that, it doesn't have the visual flares that make the start and stop gameplay of something like Super Hot not feel so jarring. I do think Shadwin feels better to play than you'd expect.
Again, I think Super Hot's so awesome because you play the mission in slow-mo, you like steal a gun, shoot a guy in the head, whatever, and it's all doable because you're in slow-mo. You wouldn't be able to do that without endless practice in real life. But then at the end, it plays you a full speed version of what you did. So you feel like a total badass. You see your character go bam, bam, pop, pop. Like, I wish more games tried to do that. It would be cool to have a game like Sifu, but they give you some way of doing it badass without a gazillion hours of practice. Hitman kind of does that with the ability to see through walls and stuff, right? Hitman's vision allows you to do cool assassin things you wouldn't be able to do without a gazillion years of practice. And so you can feel more like the assassin. I think that's cool.
It too from just seeing footage, but it is lacking something. Still, despite the game's final state seemingly not matching its ambitions, it presents a take on stealth that has a tremendous amount of promise. Another thing I've noticed about some bad games that have cool mechanics is that those mechanics don't always shine in the standard mode, but do when integrated elsewhere.
Okay,
this maybe
this?
is best seen with Red Steel, a launch title for the Nintendo Wii that made an admirable attempt at showcasing the capability of the—
Dude, I spent so much time on the GameFAQs message boards arguing with Xbots and PlayStation cows that Red Steel was the reason Nintendo Wii was for adults. Like, you guys are probably so jealous because you don't have Red Steel, which is like a sick ass adult game. And that's why the Nintendo Wii is for fucking cool adult. I'm 14 at the time.
Hey, Dom?
Hey, babe.
Look, I thought it's funny that the new shit Ferrari's on the cover.
Oh, what is this?
Weren't you like making fun of it?
Yeah, I am making fun
And
of this.
it's like, you'll be disappointed if you're expecting an iPhone on wheels. We went out of this way to avoid touchscreen.
Is it an ad for the Ferrari?
No, it's a fucking full ass article. See? Sorry, I don't know. where the
Ferrari
camera-
report. That's an ad,
Look at
though.
this.
If it's in HTSI, it's
HTSI.
HTSI is all ads.
But it doesn't say paid promotion.
Oh, it's an ad.
Anyway, I thought it was hilarious. Like,
That's
who
funny.
cares?
Who
right? Like,
cares?
About this fugly ass Honda Fit hybrid.
Okay, the Honda Fit's not ugly though.
It's kind of ugly.
No,
It's okay to be
no.
ugly though. Like, you can love ugly things. You know, okay, bee bow bow.
Me, Malmo.
Bee bow. I just haven't made an appearance.
Well, hi.
Get
We
in
got
there,
some
you
jewelers.
know? Oh my god, I forgot about Joel. I'm glad
And some
people are
chicken
still like
walks.
getting with the program, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm making chicken soup right now.
It smells good. I can smell it.
Yeah, it smells really good.
All right, I'm excited. Is the dog still there? Or
Oh
they-
no, everyone, they're gone. They're
They
gone.
left?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am looking at the jewelers and I'm having a good time. Kind of slow though, huh?
Yeah, there's a couple jewelers.
Like they spin like that one. That one's spinning fast. I like that one.
Yeah, it's the fast spinner.
That one's funny.
Did I eat all the banana bread? I ate a lot of it.
Yeah, it's like this much left. like that.
Yeah, but Stan's had some too. It wasn't all.
No, he had
me.
like this much. Okay, sorry. I'll leave you.
All right, babe.
the console's motion control.
Red Steel.
Aiming is all done with the Wiimote, and it's responsive in some surprising ways, like being able to turn the Wiimote to have your gun shoot.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I played this game when it came out, and in my humble opinion, it sucked ass. Maybe it was good, but I spent so much time online pretending it was a fucking classic, and I hated it in my heart. It felt like so buggy and not fun to play, and it did not. But I would never tell anyone that at the time.
Sideways. Additionally, with proper aiming, you can disarm enemies and even threaten them into surrendering. The nunchuck can be used to reload and throw grenades, and of course, there are sword fights because it is in fact
Yeah,
a Nintendo Wii
it looks
game, and I'm
cool.
pretty sure Reggie mandated it. Now, most of these things don't work that well, and as the game is designed in a way that asks for a level of precision that the Wii's motion controls weren't capable of at launch, it
Yeah.
leads to a stilted feeling experience. Regardless, the ideas are cool, and given that it was cutting-edge technology, I can't help but give it a little
Cool.
grace. The one mechanic that has always stood out to me, though, as being the most intriguing and well implemented actually isn't tied to the action side of the game. Instead, it's this. Throughout the campaign, whenever you get a call from an NPC, your Wiimote will ring for a moment. This largely acts as a cute little gimmick to make you feel a tiny bit more immersed, but where it truly shines is in the game's multiplayer, more specifically the killer mode. In it, every player selects one of the iconic Red Steel characters like Tuna Cutter, Waiter, Superhero, or Dino Boy, and then throughout the match, everyone receives calls on the Wiimote with some sort of direction. Unlike in the single player though, you actually have to hold it up to your ear. The orders range from taking out a specific character to
I never did
protecting a
this.
specific
This
character
sounds
to
interesting.
killing everyone with a certain weapon. If you kill anyone that isn't your target, you lose points, creating an interesting dynamic where you have to weigh if it's worth lowering your score in order to prevent someone else
that's
from
interesting.
completing their objective. Throughout all of my years of playing couch multiplayer with friends in my parents' basement, nothing hit in the way this mode did. Every time our Wiimotes would ring, the goofiest air of tension would fill the room as we raised the controllers to our ears and listened to the orders while
Damn.
also trying to—
I wish I had friends, dude. That sounds fucking hype. That sounds hype. That sounds I just played this game solo and then got online to bitch about or like complain, and that sounds fun.
Overhear the ones given to everyone else. And amazingly, when I replayed it with some friends to get footage for this video, that same sense was still there. This proved most true whenever the order would be related to finding the mystery player, as in these instances, the Wiimote doubles as a
Is anybody millennial enough to have played 007 Nightfire multiplayer? Couch co-op or any of the 007 games? Or Agent Under Fire? Dude, those games were so fucking peak. And they had so many modes that are like so good that like we used to do the thing where you could only use the rocket launcher drone where you get a camera of the drone and you follow it. And you just try to hide in different spots in the map and try to hunt each other down with the or we would do I don't know if this is Agent Under Fire or Knife Fire, but you could make the weapons mines only. So it's like a proximity mine, right? And that's the only weapon you have. So slowly but surely, and you make it one life only. So it would be 4 players. Everybody only has 1 life, and you could only put mines down. So we would fill the whole map with mines. Slowly but surely, the entire map you'd have nowhere to go. You get boxed in. It'd be so, and then eventually everyone would die. It was really, really fun.
Radar of sorts beeping quicker and quicker as you approach the target, signaling
that was Agent Under
the
Fire.
impending conflict.
Yeah,
For
shit was
being such
fun.
a small mechanic, the Wiimote operating in these ways generates a tremendous amount of intrigue and chaos. Ultimately,
What about the Splinter Cell Agent versus Operative multiplayer? I heard that was incredible. If you guys don't know, Splinter Cell had a multiplayer mode that was not, what do you say, balanced or whatever. It's like the 2 sides are totally different. One team is agents that are like trying to sneak around, and then the other side have like heavy weapons and they're strong. It's asymmetrical. And apparently it was incredible. I think Hera told me this. Hera was like, it's the best multiplayer mode ever. It's so incredible and different. I never played it, but I heard it was sick.
succeeding in creating a connection between the controls and players in a way that all the other mechanics never did. This era of gaming is one I miss a fair bit. And yes, a big part of that is because I was 15 at the time, and we tend to view everything from when we were 15 as the peak of human civilization.
True.
But also, back then, due to the popularity of couch multiplayer, far more titles included these kinds of extra modes, often throwing experimental stuff at the walls to see what would stick and pushing developers to find creative ways to use the mechanics they developed for the base game. Another example of this can be seen with a different Nintendo exclusive from a year earlier in Geist, a first-person shooter with the twist of being able to possess...
Dude, Raz has similar, I don't know, history or taste. That's why I like his channel so much. This is another game that I spent a long time talking about on message boards. Basically, any like adult-looking game or like serious game, I spent a lot of time arguing because I didn't want Nintendo stuff to be seen as kiddie, which was like the theme of the time. And I'm like, nuh-uh, there's rap lyrics with a GameCube in it, and we've got fucking Geist, and we've got... It's so funny. I don't know why I cared, but I cared.
Objects and characters. While the use of this mechanic in the single player ends up being a little underwhelming as it is fairly restrictive in terms of what you can possess and how you can possess it, it gets closer to its full...
I mean, literally the best day of my life as a younger... I mean, this was like, I was older at the time. I don't know when this came out. 2004 maybe? No, I was a kid. The best day was when Resident Evil 4 came out. That was... that was the only actual good, actual serious, like... R-rated game or whatever that ever hit GameCube. Resident Evil 4 was, for a period, GameCube exclusive. And that was the best. That was when I actually had ammo to argue online.
Potential in multiplayer with the hunt mode. One team takes the role of the humans and the other the ghosts, and each team's goal is to kill the other. The humans do this by shooting at the ghosts, and the ghosts do it by possessing the humans and having them run into various hazards across the map. When possessed, the ghosts can influence the humans' movement and where they look, and the humans try to counteract this by pressing the opposite direction on the joystick to stop the movement, all while mashing A or trying to shoot an anti-ghost cloud at their feet to become dispossessed. This all allows for plenty of mind games and the exact type of discord you're looking for when playing games in the same room as your friends. Admittedly, the mode isn't as fleshed out as it could be. It would have gone a long way if instead of both teams just trying to kill each other, the humans would have had some alternative objective that the ghosts were trying to stop them from doing. Also, as you might expect from a first-person shooter on the Nintendo GameCube, the movement and gunplay do not feel that good, all leading to an experience better remembered than played. But still, the existence of this mode revealed the wider potential the core mechanic had. It bums me out that this sort of thing is so much less common today. Multiplayer titles obviously are still thriving. Frankly, the last few years have seen a pretty huge resurgence of them. However, these experimental multiplayer modes that pull from the assets and mechanics of a game's core single-player mode are far more rare. It used to be that the vast majority of titles would include some sort of separate mode for local multiplayer, and that eventually shifted into most of them having some sort of separate mode for online multiplayer, and now it's either nothing or co-op. The latter of which I am certainly happy to see, but these modes rarely are reworking the mechanics into a new form. It's just adding another player. Unfortunately, with game development being as time-consuming and as expensive as it is now, it feels less and less likely that studios will take the risk of diverting resources to see the weirder ways.
Like, I think the games are better now. I do miss couch co-op in a way that, like, it's like an unbeatable time with the boys. It's just fun. Like, something about it is really, really fun. I don't know if it was the games that really were so much special. It was like, I think like most, what'd you say, Blur? Oh, Blur, send me your address. I'll head over after I'm done streaming. But I think couch co-op, like the archetypical example that everyone has, maybe or don't have anymore, but they used to have, is Blood Gulch with friends. And like playing Halo 2 Blood Gulch with friends is like friendships that were lifelong were made from that. Like that's incredible. It's incredibly fun. It's cinematic. It's so good. And you don't really get that by playing like Roblox with your friends or whatever online. It's not the same. Hitman Co-op is not out yet. I want to check before I move on this video. 1 second. I do want to check. Is Hitman Co-op release date? No, it hasn't been announced yet. I really think that'll be fun, but it's not yet out. I still have friends who I met on Halo 2 all these decades later. Yeah, it was truly fun. I'm not even a big Halo guy or a first-person shooter guy or a Xbox guy. And Halo Blood Gulch with friends is like incredible memories.
Their game could work. It is promising to see some bigger studios dip their toes into modes like Valhalla in God of War, but this isn't exactly reasonable for the average dev team. While understandable, it's a shame to see the experimentation of that era be left behind, as I think it will leave the potential of a lot of mechanics unrealized, both ones from back then that are unlikely to be revitalized in the current landscape, as well as ones from modern day that would be better suited in a different mode. Now, even though that era has passed, at least the games and mechanics from it are theoretically playable, something that can't be said for all modern titles. On January 12th, 2026, the servers for BioWare's Anthem shut down, leaving the game completely unplayable. If I'm being honest, I'd kind of forgotten that Anthem even came out. I remember seeing trailers for it and being impressed, but after its release was largely met with negative reviews,
so much money on
this, filled with the kind of bloated game design I had grown all too tired of by that point, I entirely forgot about it as nothing seemed to be there for me. One thing you'll find in most reviews of the game though, as well as in many of the recent reevaluations due to the shutdown, is praise of the flying mechanic, the feel of weightiness to it, the movement tech needed to keep the engines cool, the quick transition from air to ground and ground to air. A big reason there was so much.
This game I can't watch any 20-second clip of it without being bored. They're always just flying through the jungle and shooting at an uninteresting plant. It literally rolls off my brain like it's rain off a slick rooftop. I can't focus on it. It's so boring.
Much hype behind the game to begin with was because of how cool the flying looked, and that at least they nailed. and a part of me regrets never giving it a shot. To be clear, I still don't think I would have liked Anthem, and I definitely wouldn't have wanted to spend the money on it. But
It's a
now with
smooth
this
brain.
mechanic
I'm a
locked
smooth brain.
away due to the game being online only, I can't help but wish I had tried it at least once. To know what this flying in particular felt like, to have considered how it worked and how it could
might
have
find a
fit
cracked
within
version.
the game better, to not have had to rely on a friend of a friend to get footage for it. There are countless reasons to support game preservation and to chastise companies like EA for not having an end-of-life plan for their online-only titles. The simplest being that if you buy a game, you should be able to keep playing it.
I don't know. I heard from a pretty trustworthy streamer that stop killing games is a dumb idea. So, all due respect, Raz, but I'm not.
A major one for me, though,
I'm
is that
not
losing
on
these
board.
titles eliminates the chance for
not on
future
board.
devs to study them and use the aspects that worked as a jumping off point for something new. With how many
That's just what I
games
heard.
are out there, it can be hard to even remember the ones that are considered good. And so it tends to be even harder to remember those that are considered bad. And it's all too common to dismiss them entirely. But I want these games to be remembered and to be playable. If it wasn't clear already, I have a lot of affection for the titles I've talked about. To go back to Jacob's video, my favorite point he makes in it is that when it comes to art, the opposite of good is uninteresting. And while all of these titles failed to present stable and cohesive experiences, the mechanics they champion are anything but uninteresting.
Good point.
Not to mention, as mechanics are so central to a title's moment-to-moment feel, there is this weird thing with all of these games where despite the underwhelming design that surrounds their stellar mechanics, they still can be fun. And if you
The opposite thing I have is where sometimes a game's mechanic is good in a good game, but you want more of it. I don't know how to say this. How do I put this? The example I'm thinking of is like, why is portals and the portal goop in the last time of Portal only locked into Portal? I want to use it in other games. I want more people to have access to that. Portal is a short experience that's really fun, and I would like a lot. No, but Splitgate's like all about high octane, super fast multiplayer. I think Portal 1 is a perfect game. I think Portal 2 is a near perfect game. I love Portal. This past weekend, I watched a 90-minute video about Portal speedrunning from a YouTuber that had 0 subscribers. It was their only successful video. It was just interesting. It was just super. It wasn't even about Portal speedrunning. It was about like one section of one level and the history of one speedrun. And I was fascinated. It's an awesome game. But I wish there were more that did it. Why is 2 worse? I wouldn't say 2's worse. It's got a better story. It's bigger. But Portal 1 is so complete. I don't know how to say it. Portal 2 has some, I don't know. I think Portal 1 is perfect. That's my honest question. Answer to the question.
play them just for small bursts and only focus on those little bits, you can walk away feeling pretty good about them. Also, as most of these mechanics haven't been explored all that thoroughly, these titles are still the best way to experience them. In some ways, I think this means time may be kind to these games. With something like Bionic Commando, the further removed we become from 2009, the easier it will become to ignore the ways in which it fell short by 2009 standards. On one hand, I like the idea that these games will age well because they do stuff that nothing else really does. On the other though, I think it would be a waste if these mechanics ended with them. When it comes to conversations around game design from folks like myself, things understandably tend to center around success.
It's like why I like Sekiro over any other Souls-like. It's not like that I think Elden Ring plus expansion is not an overall bigger, better, more bosses, more awesome game. It's like Sekiro's perfect. You know, there's something about trimming all the fat and just getting a pure juice. That's what I feel about Portal 1 versus Portal 2, but I love both. I have great memories of both.
S's. Like, it stands to reason that when talking about good game design, the focus should be on games that people broadly like, ones with few shortcomings that are fairly easy to look past. And this also holds true for design trends in the industry. Dark Souls came out and everything started to take ideas from Dark Souls. Breath of the Wild came out and everything started to take ideas from Breath of the Wild.
Dude, that's actually such a good point. Every fucking game out of China recently is just stealing Breath of the Wild plus 3 other games. There's like 4 million massive ass quadruple A gacha games where it's Breath of the Wild plus, and then every game coming out of the US indie scene is just another classic iconic game like poker plus Balatro. There's like chess Balatro, there's fucking backgammon Balatro, there's fucking craps Balatro, there's every fucking game is just trying to get Balatro, slots Balatro.
Came out and everything started to take ideas from Balatro, and again, it makes sense. These games are all good and filled with good mechanics to build off of. They should be a point of conversation and inspiration. However, I do think this instinct can cause the gaming landscape to feel homogenous. A lot of these ideas that started out as great have become stale more quickly than they maybe should have due to
North Line's always talking about friend slop, which is just Peak with a twist. Peak did not, friend slop. First of all, I think the word slop and friend slop is kind of overrated because the games are fun with your friends. It's not like, I think it shouldn't be slop, but it came from that one solo dev horror game. We played it on stream. Well, I forgot what it's called. That one kicked it off more than anything else. The Lethal Company kicked it off because that made $50 million for one guy in like a side project. And once he did that, it became like, oh, fuck. You could say Among Us. I get what you're saying, but I think Among Us, I really think it was Lethal Company. I think because Among Us felt like something you couldn't replicate. It was the moment of the pandemic. I literally think it was like Lethal Company proved to a lot of devs that, oh shit, if I can get the right friend game that hits streamers, then friends will play it and it'll make infinite money. And after that, it's been like a million of them. But Peak is a genuinely good game. Peak is genuinely Peak.
the market being flooded by so many things that feel the same. If I have to see the Breath of the Wild pan one more time, I may lose it. This amount of oversaturation can be detrimental to the reach of any game that pulls from something popular, as sticking too close to everything else not only makes it harder to stand out, but also
There was a time where every single game was a zombie game, and then every single game for a while, kind of stretching into now, was a Japanese sword fighting game. There's still like a million Japanese sword fighting games. And we just got through the zombie period. It's like one of the tail dead end of zombies.
also makes it less likely to get out from the shadow of the original inspiration, where a genre classification like roguelike has become relatively disconnected from the actual game Rogue. When it comes to more recent stuff like Dark Souls, like Breath of the Wild, like Balatro, that same degree of separation doesn't exist, and so instead of being purely a classification, it is also a comparison, one that doesn't always help newer games.
I'm in a team working on a card game. We have something in Slay the Spire. Well, it's funny because like if you were making a roguelike card game, I would tell you to steal a lot from Slay the Spire. When I play ones that don't steal enough, it's like, well, this is kind of worse. It's boring. I think there's room to take some of the mechanics of Slay the Spire and have a different theme. Because the theme is probably the weakest part of Slay the Spire. It's like fine. It's like not...
All of this is to say, I love when devs take inspiration from past works that aren't so prevalent in the zeitgeist, especially those that were seen as failure.
Yeah, make Slay the Spire, but with anime titties and gotcha mechanics, and you'll make $1 billion. Okay, call it Slay the Wallet.
and I hope more start to do it. There are so many intriguing
Already
systems
exists?
waiting to
Oh,
be
yeah,
revived by the right dev, and while I understand the interest in financial incentive that pushes studios to iterate on the mechanics that are most relevant within the current gaming
It already exists. Gakugan Idol Monster. I have to check. It's so funny because the Chinese keep review bombing Slay the Spire. So this is the game for them. Gakugan Idol Master? You're so right, dude. You're so right. This is exactly what you said. Oh my God. Look at this. It's just anime waifus and how did you know that off rip? Wait a minute. We've been infiltrated by weebs. We've been infiltrated by weebs. How the fuck do you have an instant pull on Gakugan Idol Master? Gameplay. Okay, bro. You shouldn't be playing these games. You shouldn't be playing these fucking games, bro. You shouldn't be playing these games. It's not peak. You're not afraid, and you should be afraid, and it's not peak. Okay, where's the video? I want to watch the end of Rise's video. Where'd it go? Dude, where did I close it? Oh, here it is.
Moment, the untapped potential of failures contains a staggering amount of promise.
True.
Now, as there are more games out there than ever, it is possible that these ideas have been iterated on and I just haven't seen it. I suppose if you've played something with mechanics reminiscent of any of the ones I've talked about, please let me know. I'd love.
I mean, the far better than Quest 64 combat. What's the Oh, there was a fucking RPG game, multiplayer. Was it Divinity? Where they had like elemental based spells and everything had cool elements. And like, yeah, that was awesome. That shit was really fun. And then Magica. I'm actually thinking of Magica, but Divinity had the same thing, similar thing. But Magica had like a really cool idea. Like,
remember Magica?
Bye, have a great time.
it had like, it had like 5 stars above your head, and you would pick, you had buttons for like air, water, earth, fire, and you would pick them. And whatever combo you picked filled the 5 stars. So you did like air, 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 fire, fire. It would do like a fire air spell. And it would do however your combo you did, it would do a different spell. And you had a million different combos. And that shit was fun. It was a really cool mechanic that could have been used elsewhere. I wish I could show
You
it.
bastard.
Oh,
I remember when we
I wish I could show it, but I can't find it. I think Magica was like an example of what he's talking about in this video, and I think it's cool, champ. Not as cool as George Bush throwing that pitch, but like pretty cool. But I think I left
Most relevant within the current gaming moment, the untapped potential of failures contains a staggering amount of promise. Now, as there are more games out there than ever, it is possible that these ideas have been iterated on and I just haven't seen it. I suppose if you've played something with mechanics reminiscent of any of the ones I've talked about, please let me know. I'd love to play them. It is also possible that despite me liking these mechanics, they don't actually have as much potential as I believe they do. That the reason these games struggled to be great was because they were limited by
That's
their mechanics.
Invoker from Dota?
With most of these, I don't
play
that
Dota,
is
I'm
the
a league
case.
guy.
But it is hard to know without actually trying to develop them into a new game.
I like
which
my
unfortunately
food
is not currently
pre-chewed.
something I have the skills or capacity for. However,
I
I
like
hope
bright
someone
colors
can prove that notion wrong with
and
all of these,
pre-chewed
because they're
food.
mechanics I want to keep experiencing. Of course, if the only way I can keep experiencing them is by dealing with stupid guards, incessant footsteps, and repetitive fights, I suppose that will have to do. Throughout my time working on this piece, I found my mind often drifting to games that fit the opposite of this video's prompt. Titles that by most measures are seen as good, but include at least one mechanic that feels off. No game is perfect, and I thought it'd be a fun little challenge and thought experiment to explore my least favorite aspects in some of my favorite games. And
Okay.
yes, spoilers, I even came up with one for Outer Wilds.
What do you
Sort
hate
of.
about that?
You'll see. Instead of doing all of this alone though, I enlisted the help of a few friends, Jacob Geller, Eurothug 4000, and Iron Pineapple. And we talked
Eurothug
for almost an
4000?
hour and a half about our nitpicks with great games. And if you're interested in watching that conversation, it is up on Nebula right now.
check it out.
Nebula.
I will say the one thing that always comes to my mind is that Half-Life 2 is one of the greatest games of all time, but the pistol sound is so rinky dink that I hate it. It's not a mechanic, it's the sound. The audio of the pistol is the worst audio a gun's ever had in a video game, and it literally knocks 2 points off the game for me.